Last night on 7:30, we brought you the story of massive speed restrictions on the rail line between Sydney and Melbourne. There are claims those speed limits are the result of a botched federal infrastructure upgrade, laying new concrete sleepers. The Australian Rail Track Corporation has dismissed that as nonsense. But now the corporation's under attack for letting the main line between Perth and the East Coast deteriorate to such a degree that at least one freight carrier is increasingly turning to road transport. Matt Peacock reports.
These goods are bound for Perth, on the one railway line in Australia that for decades has carried more freight than road, now around 4 times as much. But despite a federal government investment into rail of billions of dollars, that's changing.
A lot of freight can't go on rail anymore because they're probably a half a day longer than they should be.
Glenn McMahon's the director of the Adelaide-based Railroad Contractors, which moves more than 200 containers a week, most of it by rail. But poor track maintenance, according to McMahon, has led to unacceptable train delays and rides so rough that some stock simply can't be sent by rail anymore.
We used to send a lot of bottled water. We can't anymore because it's so rough it splits the plastic.
The company's now increasingly being forced to switch to road, using the big trucks with double and triple trailers.
We'll put another probably 5 B-triples on in the next year and a half if this continues.
One of the motivations for us building such a good structure was to encourage people to put their freight on the rail, to take these big trucks off the road.
The track across the Nullarbor was one of Australia's best. Thousands of kilometres of concrete sleepers and welded rail carrying not just freight, but the iconic Indian Pacific passenger train. For many years it was the responsibility of the former Australian National Railways CEO Russell King, who's horrified to hear Glenn McMahon's complaint.
It's got to tell you that the condition of the track is bad news. I mean, if the track was properly founded and properly welded and properly ground and tied together, then it wouldn't rattle, and you would be able to drive across the top of it.
Since 1997, the track's been the responsibility of the Australian government-owned ARTC, the Australian Rail Track Corporation. It's now begun a $250 million project to remove old wooden sleepers between Broken Hill and Parkes, replacing them with concrete ones. These new sleepers are being inserted from the side of the track, but it's understood using a different technique from that used on the Melbourne to Sydney line, where the rail union claims the work triggered mud holes that on one occasion has caused an XPT car to bounce so badly that emergency air brake equipment was damaged. This secretly filmed footage obtained by 7:30 shows the caked particles of mud and cement that have been pumped up from the affected track.
What we're finding our members having to do is go in beneath these trains and beneath these locos with a hammer and a chisel to take away the mud that is appearing as a result of the bog holes all over the tracks.
The ARTC's declined repeated 7:30 requests for an interview during the past 2 months. But yesterday, CEO John Fullerton did speak to ABC Radio, claiming an independent consultant had recently approved the earlier sleeper-laying methods and instead blamed the soil on both sides of the border for the mud holes.
It really is a section of track, probably 500 or 600 kilometres long, and mud holes appear at various locations along the corridor.
When the re-slippering project got underway 4 years ago, a consultant hired by the Southern Improvement Alliance was told the ARTC wanted to get the sleepers in at the cheapest price without consideration of the ramifications. In his report leaked to 7:30, he concluded the idea of using insertion machines on mainline at the expense of quality is not recommended. Within a short period, major work will be required on the new concrete sleepers and the introduction of new ballast will be needed.
How the hell can we be talking about high-speed rail, which we need in this country, if we can't even get slow-speed rail right? That's the big question.
South Australia's independent senator, Nick Xenophon, is now calling for a public inquiry.
This deserves a full and thorough Senate inquiry because we're not getting the answers from the Rail Track Corporation. This involves hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money, and it also involves the safety of drivers and passengers on these lines.
Matt Peacock with that report.